In the shadowy depths of folklore lies a disturbing truth that modern entertainment has desperately tried to conceal. Fairies are among the most terrifying creatures ever to haunt human mythology. Forget everything Disney and popular culture have taught you about friendly, sparkly beings, sprinkling magic dust and granting wishes. The real fairy lore, passed down through generations of terrified witnesses, tells of creatures so sinister that entire communities developed elaborate systems of protection just to survive their presence. Today, we're diving deep into the dark reality of these supernatural entities, revealing why our ancestors trembled at the mere mention of the fair folk. Curious about mythology? The gods have spoken. You must follow Elysium mythology to uncover its mysteries. Don't miss a single episode. The term fairy itself hints at their true nature, originating from the Latin fatum, meaning fate or destiny. This etymology reveals their fundamental connection to the forces that shape human lives, not as gentle guides, but as powerful, often malicious beings, capable of destroying entire lineages with mere whims. Across European cultures, these entities inhabited a parallel realm that intersected with our world in ways that frequently spelled disaster for mortals unfortunate enough to encounter them. Imagine waking up to find your healthy, laughing baby replaced by a withered, shrieking creature that looks almost, but not quite, human. This nightmare was a reality for countless families throughout history who fell victim to fairy child snatching. The practice of stealing human infants and replacing them with changelings wasn't just a rare occurrence. It was one of the fairies' signature acts of cruelty. These changelings would exhibit deeply disturbing characteristics: unnatural intelligence far beyond their apparent age, constant wailing that no comfort could soothe, and an otherworldly appearance that became more apparent as time passed. Parents watched helplessly as their supposed children displayed abilities no human child should possess, from speaking in ancient, forgotten languages to manipulating shadows and natural elements. The reasons behind these abductions paint an even darker picture of fairy motivations. Some folklore suggests fairies needed human children to replenish their declining bloodlines, treating our offspring as breeding stock to reinvigorate their supernatural essence. Others claim they collected human children as exotic pets or slaves, viewing them as playthings to be discarded once their youth and beauty faded. More sinister interpretations propose that fairies sought to corrupt human bloodlines deliberately, creating hybrid beings that could serve as sleeper agents in both realms, furthering some incomprehensible long-term agenda against humanity. But child theft was just the beginning of fairy malevolence. Their curses could destroy not just individuals, but entire family lines, communities, and even regions. The slightest offense, from disturbing a fairy mound to forgetting a traditional offering, could unleash generations of misfortune. Irish folklore particularly warns about fairy trees and paths, where even today, construction projects are sometimes rerouted to avoid angering these vindictive beings. These curses manifested in cunningly cruel ways. Crops would wither mysteriously in otherwise fertile fields. Livestock would die of inexplicable ailments that defied veterinary knowledge. Family businesses would fail through an improbable series of mishaps, and strange illnesses would plague entire bloodlines, baffling medical professionals for generations. The Unseelie Court, a collective of particularly malevolent fairies, exemplifies the darkest aspects of fairy nature. Among its ranks, the Redcaps haunt abandoned castles and ruins, soaking their headwear in fresh human blood to maintain their existence. Legend has it that if the blood on their caps dries out, they will cease to exist, driving them to constantly seek new victims. The Nucleavi, a skinless horror combining elements of horse and rider, spreads disease and crop failure with its toxic breath. Eyewitness accounts describe it as having a head 10 times the size of a human's, with a single, baleful eye that rolls like a marble in its vast skull. The soul-hunting Slua sweep through the night during Samhain, seeking to claim the spirits of the dying. They're said to travel in swarms, creating a sound like rushing wind and beating wings, striking terror into anyone unfortunate enough to hear their approach. Even more terrifying is the Farkan, whose single eye can kill with a glance, turning victims to stone or causing them to waste away in a matter of days. The seductive Bavanshi lures victims with promises of supernatural beauty and pleasure, only to drain their life force, leaving behind withered husks that crumble to dust at a touch. Fairy rings represent another deadly aspect of fairy malice. These seemingly innocent circles of mushrooms serve as traps for unwary humans. Stepping inside, one could result in being forced to dance until death from exhaustion, or worse, being pulled into the fairy realm where time flows differently. Victims who managed to return often found that years or decades had passed in what felt like hours to them. Their loved ones aged or dead, their world changed beyond recognition. Some never returned at all, their fate in the fairy realm better left to imagination. Folklore tells of entire villages found abandoned, their inhabitants having stepped into fairy rings during festivals, never to be seen again. Perhaps most insidious were fairy gifts and bargains, representing their talent for long-term manipulation and cruelty. A fairy might offer a never-empty purse, but the wealth would bring nothing but misery, attracting thieves, causing family discord, or leading to personal ruin. Help with crops or crafts could seem like a blessing until the price came due, often a firstborn child, a lifetime of servitude, or even one's soul. These transactions emphasize the alien morality of fairies. They operated outside human concepts of good and evil, following their own incomprehensible code. Stories abound of humans who thought they had outwitted the fairies, only to find the true cost of their bargain revealed years or even generations later. The fear of fairy encounters led to elaborate protective measures across cultures. Iron proved particularly effective, perhaps because it symbolized human civilization's power over nature. People would hang horseshoes above doors, carry iron nails in their pockets, and place iron implements near cradles to protect infants. Other protective measures included wearing clothes inside out, carrying rowan berries or St. John's wort, and avoiding known fairy locations during dangerous times like dusk or dawn. Some communities employed professional fairy doctors, specialists in identifying and lifting fairy curses, though their success rates were notoriously unreliable. These practitioners would use complex rituals involving specific herbs, incantations, and sometimes even sacrifice to appease offended fairies. Even travelers weren't safe from fairy malice. The pixies of Devon and Cornwall created elaborate illusions to lure people into dangerous bogs or off cliff edges. Accounts tell of entire caravans disappearing after following what they thought was a safe path, only to find themselves trapped in quicksand or dashed upon rocks. Welsh Gwydion appeared as familiar figures, friends or family members, before vanishing, leaving their victims disoriented in treacherous terrain. Many a hiker has been found days later, confused and malnourished, with no memory of how they strayed so far from well-known paths. Irish folklore warns of stray swords, enchanted patches of grass that could disorient even the most experienced traveler in familiar territory, leading them to wander endlessly until exhaustion or exposure claimed them. The Banshee, perhaps one of the most famous fairy beings, serves as a harbinger of death in Irish folklore. Her piercing wail, heard in the dead of night, signals the impending death of a family member. While not directly malevolent, her presence represents the fairy world's intimate connection with human mortality. Some accounts describe her washing the bloody clothes of those about to die, a chilling reminder of fate's inevitability. Families with banshee connections often lived in constant fear, knowing that any night could bring her terrifying cry. Modern society has sanitized these creatures, transforming them into friendly sprites and magical helpers. This transformation represents one of the most dramatic reimaginings in folkloric history, masking centuries of terror behind a veil of whimsy and wonder. Yet the original tales persist, warning us of beings whose power and motives remain beyond human comprehension. Some folklorists argue that this sanitization is itself a form of protection. By making fairies seem harmless, we're less likely to attract their attention or stumble into their domains. The fairy world operates on principles alien to human understanding. Their concept of time, morality, and existence differs fundamentally from ours. What might seem like a simple interaction to them could result in generations of human suffering. Their beauty often masks their dangerous nature, like the alluring phosphorescence of deep-sea predators. This fundamental otherness made them all the more terrifying to our ancestors, who could never truly predict how a fairy might react to any given situation. Archaeological evidence suggests that many ancient protective rituals and architectural features were designed specifically to ward off fairy interference. From the strategic placement of rowan trees near homesteads to the careful orientation of doorways away from fairy paths, our ancestors built their lives around avoiding fairy attention. Excavations have uncovered protective charms buried in foundations, and ancient texts describe elaborate rituals performed before breaking new ground for construction. If this video sparked your curiosity, drop a like, or better yet, a super like, and show the gods you want more epic mythology. So the next time you encounter fairy imagery in popular culture, remember the darker truth behind the sparkles and wings. These ancient, powerful beings earned their sinister reputation through centuries of causing human suffering. Perhaps our modern reimagining of fairies as friendly, helpful creatures serves a protective purpose, making us forget just how dangerous they truly are. After all, in the real world of fairy lore, the best defense was to avoid their notice entirely. For once you caught their attention, your fate was sealed. The terror our ancestors felt was not mere superstition, but a deep-seated understanding of forces beyond human control, waiting just beyond the veil of our reality. Thanks for watching until the end. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like, share with fellow mythology fans, and follow Elysium Mythology for more epic stories.